Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Design Review Board for June 4th, 2019. If we could all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I would first like to introduce our staff and board members. Start with Bob.
I'm Bob Buscemi, the city architect.
Cody Hendricks, planning tech.
Charlie Roberts, Freemanville Road.
Reed Casey, Bethany Road.
Tim Bryan, I have a business here in Crabapple.
Laura Weissong, I live in Crooked Creek.
Jeff Dufresne, Summit Road.
Beniquez Palmer, Canterbury on the Lake.
All right, our first item is to approve our agenda for this evening. Are there any modifications to the agenda?
Yes, we want to move item 7D, Crabapple Market Phase 4 LDP, to be considered under a courtesy review.
LD. Okay, under courtesy review. Okay. Any other changes? That's it. Okay. All right. If I could get someone to make a motion for a agenda modification.
I move to modify the agenda as stated.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
If I could get approval for the May meeting minutes, if somebody could make a motion to approve the May meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the May meeting minutes.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Our first item on the agenda is for demolitions. And the first demolition item is Mountain Road Demo, 2170 Mountain Road.
I believe the applicant is not here this evening.
Yes, I'm not.
Normally, if the applicant's not, we would defer it again.
Defer again, okay. So if I could have somebody make a motion to defer item 5A for Mountain Road Demo.
I'll make a motion to defer the Mountain Road demo.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we will move on to courtesy reviews. And a courtesy review is the board does not take a vote. We provide input to other committees. The first item is item B19-006. The address is 13795 Bethany Road, to allow an accessory structure to be located in the front yard. Will the applicant come forward?
Hi, we're Monty and Eric Furr. We live at 13795 Bethany Road. We would like to build a barn on the front of our property. Our property kind of is a diamond shape, so it gets pretty wide in the middle. And the reason we want to do the barn in the front is it's relatively flat. There would be a little disturbance. If we put the barn in the back, we have a very sloped backyard that we reforested after we built our house, and we'd have to just have a lot more disturbance in the back, and we'd have to build some type of road to get back there. If we build it in the front, the only neighbor that's going to see it is our next door neighbor. But in the back, all 5 of our neighbors would be able to see our barn. We also put a line of trees along the road, so there would be little view of the barn from the road. Anything else you can think of?
No, it would just be a classic rough sawn tin roof barn, kind of the look that Milton likes. Like she said, for us to go around, there would be some kind of road or path. We're going to use it, get some small animals. I have a utility like gator storage, things like that. Me and my son ride dirt bikes, so just kind of put those things in there. We've planted more trees, and we'll also plant some more around the barn. There will be a couple trees we'll have to remove. There's a couple in that area that are already dying. All of our neighbors have all signed off on the barn. We showed them a picture of it, what it would look like. The across the street neighbor as well, whose property doesn't abut ours, he signed off as well on the barn.
And the one, was that the one neighbor that you had mentioned who would see it from the front?
The one who would see it, who would be the closest to it, his name's Paul Manning. He signed off as well. Everybody who touches our property, then the across the street neighbor signed off as well. We went and met him and showed him the plans and what it would look like and all that stuff.
Okay. Any questions from the board or comments from staff?
There'll be no animals, right?
No animals. I mean, we may get some mini goats or something for the kids one day. We used to have horses a long time ago, but no like livestock animals or anything like that. No, sir.
Animals of any type, it would have to be 100 feet from the property line per code. So it's, right now, the way you're showing it, I believe you're representing it as no animals.
Yeah.
If you decide to put animals in it, it would change the use. It would be a different style barn.
Okay. Yes, sir.
So then you'd have to come back because it would need to be 100 feet from the property line. So
That's
then you would
fine. We
need a
don't
different variance for that.
Okay. We
So
can
I'm
leave that
just,
off.
I'm just making it, when you go to the BZA, it's a no animal barn,
Okay. Yes, sir.
right? Okay. And just to let the board know, I mean, it is, I looked at the architecture, and it is in keeping with the Milton style. It's got vertical siding, barn doors, it's metal roof. It is subordinate to the main structure, principal structure as far as its size. But it is located in the front yard, so it will require a variance.
There won't be any kind of plumbing or anything like that. There will be some power out there, but that's it as far as that goes.
Yeah, I do see the slope. Any other questions from anyone?
I think it'll add a nice look along the road there. It'll be a nice look to see a barn there.
Yeah.
Structure.
It would be kind of nice to see a barn.
Yeah, actually, I know where that is, yeah.
Bob, at one point in the last 6 or so years, didn't Milton want to encourage barns in front to be seen from the road?
They used to discourage us. They used to not allow it at all.
I know they used to not allow it, and then I thought they welcomed it. We welcomed it.
Well, currently, livestock style barns that contain animals, horses, any animal, would be different than an accessory structure that just stores equipment.
Gotcha.
Right, the current code requires it to be on the side or rear of the property. It also requires it to be subordinate to the main principal structure, meaning that it's in scale smaller than the principal structure. We had one last month, right, that came in for the legalization of a enclosure of a riding ring, which was much larger. It was a much bigger structure. I think this is in keeping with the definition of what the intent of a accessory structure should be. And the style of it is in keeping with the architectural character of an AG1 area, which is important as well. So,
Yeah.
but it is located in the front, and it should be on the side or rear of the property under current code. So there are a lot of existing barns that when you drive through Milton that are located in the front yard. I think they're somewhat historic in their nature. And I think they add to the character.
They do.
Yeah, I do too.
I think if the architecture is right and it's placed right, I think it looks kind of in keeping. Their yard happens to be heavily wooded, but I mean, the architecture is important because one day or in the winter it defoliates and you see it, or the trees, get a disease, or you never know, what happens 20 years from now. So we like to keep the architecture in keeping with the AG1 style.
So I think we're saying that we would send it on with no comments other than we think it's great and it's appropriate and it looks good.
Yeah.
Great.
I would
I
just
think
make sure to have letters from those neighbors that are adjacent to the property,
We turned it into Mr. Hendricks, all their signatures and all that stuff, with a letter of approval.
okay, good.
Okay, good. Are there any comments from the community? I say if you've got all the letters, we're good with it.
Yeah.
So good luck. Yeah, it looks really
Thank you
nice.
so
Awesome.
much.
Thank you very
Like
much.
it.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Before you leave, you guys are aware that the BZA changed the date of the
Yeah, I
hearing?
It's the 25th.
That's correct. So you're aware of
This
that,
one.
right? I just want to make sure. Okay.
All right. Make sure I got the right one. This one, right? Yeah, okay. No, it's this one right here. I read through all these. Okay, our next item for courtesy review is the Crab Apple Market Phase 4 LDP. And Joshua Barnes, Jonathan Nicholson.
Steve, if you could just state your name and address for the record.
Okay, I'm pulling up the thing real quick here.
Can you be doing the PowerPoint?
I've just got a couple of slides, and I've got the drawings if there's any specific questions regarding it. Good evening. My name is Steve Rowe. I'm with AEC, 50 Warm Springs Circle, Roswell, Georgia. And I'm here representing Orkin and Associates on this next development within the Crabapple Market. It would be on the eastern piece of the property that is adjacent to the current park. It's the undeveloped piece where there's some existing pipes out of the ground and such, and we would be redeveloping that into a pair of mixed-use buildings with a trail that runs between them. The trail runs, the reason for the break in the buildings, there's actually a 24-inch water line that runs there from Fulton County, so we've used that as our line of demarcation, but are trying to make the best of the situation by putting the bike trail connection there that's proposed to the back of the property. The parking will be to the rear. There will be a mixed-use building with commercial office on the bottom floors, residential above. It's not been fully designed yet. The architects are working on that now. We're just trying to get ahead of the game with the land disturbance permit so we can get the utilities rerouted, get the grading done, get the parking on the ground itself. And this will also replace some of the parking that is on the property that is going to be currently developed for the developments that are happening that have already been approved. At this point, I can answer any questions you may have on the plans.
So I just want to interject quick. So the reason staff asked for this particular agenda item to be moved on the agenda from a final to a courtesy is because we got it in kind of late and we had advertised it as a final, but staff hasn't fully had a chance to review and vet. And there are some minor changes that need to be done. So I suggested that we put it on a courtesy, make the board have an opportunity to look at it and make any comments. And then if time is of the essence, I suggested that if we had to, we could always potentially have the applicant ask for a special call meeting or something to kind of keep it moving. But it would give staff the opportunity to make the corrections and get it all up into code.
Yeah, the time is critical on this. So once we do have comments from staff, we would like to move as quickly as we can. We've already gotten a grading only permit, so we've got the ability to do a limited amount of work on the property currently, but we'd like the ability to do the utility reroutes, get the future conditions closer to being able to just put a building on the property.
Bob, can we not move it back down and approve it, subject to staff verifying, approving, and the applicant acknowledging any changes staff wants done they will do? Rather than a special call meeting or bring it back next month?
I mean, it would just be, any staff modifications. If you want, we could do it that way. And then I could always bring it back under old business and just show the board what it finally looks like. But it would be
Since it's in-depth civil and it's more staff and your departments that know more about this than we do anyway, I doubt any of us can take the applicant's working drawings and know a whole lot about it. And so I think we're going to rely on staff anyway.
Okay.
So I would suggest that we move it to a final. You've done all the work in Crabapple thus far, making everything work. And it just saves everybody time and trouble, and we're going to rely on you anyway and staff to approve water, sewer, underground, and so on.
Okay.
I'm okay with that.
Fair enough.
So I'd make a motion to approve it as submitted, subject to staff reviewing it and the applicant agreeing to any conditions staff wants to change or
We'd have to
accommodate.
first have a motion to shift it back to final review.
Yeah, we
So that
do.
it's in its proper place. And then if you want to take it up, you can take it up right away while he's up here. I don't mind that.
I'd make a motion to,
I just had a point of clarification, Bob. So are these two buildings that we've seen the design for yet?
No.
No.
They came in with preliminary.
Okay,
Orkin and Associates did show us early on some preliminary
okay,
sketches,
okay.
and I think they're out there. People have seen them. But I don't believe that Piper O'Brien has done the final design on them yet.
and you had mentioned earlier, Steve, we're going to see all that later when the architect's done.
That's correct.
And this is just the civil.
That's correct.
This
And
is just
the-
trying to get the LDP.
This is the
Yes, ma'am.
horizontal work.
Absolutely.
Okay,
That's it.
yeah, that's, all right. All right, so go
I want to
forward.
make a motion to take item 7D out of courtesy reviews and return it to the final reviews.
Great. Thank you.
Second.
And can you say, put that in place A, since he's currently up there?
Yes.
Yes,
I say place A.
thank
Do I
you.
need to recuse? Do I need to recuse?
You would.
Okay.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
And one would,
Okay, and she's recusing, okay.
that's right.
Now I'd like to make another motion on item 7D in final reviews that we approve as submitted, subject to the applicant agreeing that any changes, modifications, or additions required by staff that they have agreed to do.
Okay.
Yes, that's absolutely.
Good.
And I'll
Thank you.
second that one as well.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Great. Thank you very
Great,
much.
thank you. Yeah, okay, so,
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
So, Chairman, just to make sure, that was considered to be 7A, not 7D?
that was 7A, it was moved to 7A, correct. All right, so now 7, all right, just so let me reiterate, so 7B will now be Brayburn Townhomes, 7C will be Crabapple Market Green Amphitheater, 7D is Crabapple Market Outdoor Canopy, and so D, yeah, E is LDP. Okay, so let's, Brayburn Townhomes, Phase 3 Architecture, I believe that's Rob.
I'm Rob Beecham, 500 Mill Creek Road in Woodstock, Georgia. It's good to be back with you again to look at this project. And I just wanted to comment that how much of a pleasure it is, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, at working with a jurisdiction that has the best interest of the community and works in a manner to produce a great project. So I know we've gotten feedback on this from various people, and it's been relayed through Bob. And in the end, that kind of dialogue, I believe, produces a better product. So tonight, I hope what we're presenting, I believe, is a much better product than we started off with, and it's something I'm very proud of, and something that city staff has certainly spent time working with me and vice versa to bring this project before you. The location is just right across the street, right down here. And if you drove by it, we've already have our LDP, so We do have the orange tree save up, and we should begin grading. We've done a little bit of cleanup on the project already, but grading in earnest should start before the end of the week. We are looking tonight at the first three units that we'll build, which are kind of on the northwest side, immediately adjacent to the property that's owned by Orkin and Associates, which we'll look at on the next page. So I've been very interested, as well as Bob and with Adam and his team, at working together to make sure that the streetscape that we're all working together to produce here in Crabapple is beautiful. And so I've met with Adam and his team, and they've been gracious to provide for us some of the architecture. So the buildings that you see shown on my presentation. Are buildings that are the proposed projects there for the Orkin development. So they're similar style, being Greek Revival, and of course they're of a commercial size scale, which is why when I initially met with Bob, we talked about these particular 3 townhomes being a transitional building, seeing that they were adjacent to commercial property. The next page, go one more page from, this one, yeah. The next page, again, just is showing how, maybe an idea of how the streetscape may work. So Mr. Orkin's buildings probably will be somewhere around 50 feet above street level. Our property that's immediately adjacent, we sit approximately 10 feet. Our first floor elevation is about approximately 10 feet below his. And our building is probably overall height is another 10. So we're probably looking at, even with the scale of this building being 20 feet below his maximum height. So I just wanted to show that to you so you understood the scale and the look as you came down the street. Our next page is some of the elements that I've worked with Bob at working with the UDC design guidelines in Greek Revival. And you'll see this page copied out of the UDC shows some of the highlighted elements of Greek Revival, from the low-pitched roof, from the Doric columns, the bold entablature, the attic windows. So some of these elements, when we were working on this design, we pulled directly from the UDC. Next page is additional information from the UDC, which we used in our design. I will point out just a few underlying things. One of them is it forms or boxy with consistent cornice lines and low-pitched gabled or hipped roofs. A lot of different information, but again, the classical details are large and bold, columns being the main hallmark of the style, and paint colors being typically white, cream, gray, with window sashes white or black. So this, again, we're working our best to comply with guidelines presented in the UDC. The next page is our materials and finishes. What we have planned at this point is that there are 2 end units and then 1 interior unit. So these would be some of the design elements for the end units. I'm showing the windows in transom colors and a darker color called French Beret, brick color painted in a Benjamin Moore color called Decorator's White, and then our exterior doors in just a slightly different color, Benjamin Moore Knoxville Gray. With the addition of the gabled roof from the previous versions, we're proposing using the galvanized aluminum roofing and lighting that would be similar to this style lighting. The next presentation page shows our middle unit, and we've added a little bit softer color to this particular unit with the windows and transoms in the Texas sage, brick color being the same, since it's a monolithic building, it is impossible to change paint colors between or base colors between the 3 units, and then the other colors mentioned. The next page shows our revised front elevation, which is classic Greek Revival. You notice that we have changed the column details. We've changed the roof detail with adding a low-pitched roof. What's hard to see is we still have the rooftop walkout terraces on all 3 units, but they're hidden nicely behind it. So from 3 sides of the structure, there's no apparent rooftop terrace. I've also increased the size of the side porches, making them even more usable, with the front porches being, I believe they're 8 feet deep, Bob, but I think that sounds right. Another perspective showing just a little bit of angled view of the front, so you can see the depth of the porches, and you can start to see the entablatures. So the top brick entablature, I think, is that one. It has almost a 16-inch step-out, Tim, so I'm working to put the gutter system and all of the cornice detail comes in behind that top brick detail, so it's a really clean, wonderful look. I think it's going to be very classical and very elegant. Next page shows both of our side elevations, which they are virtually identical. I have presented 2 different window patterns on the units. So one unit would have a 4/4 in the window pattern, and the other unit would have a 2/2. But basically the side porch is full finished lower level, and the porch details remain the same. The rear elevation shows the depiction of the rooftop terrace, which is hard to see from that elevation or from that detail, but you can see that it is hidden and only visible from the rear side, which has a 42-inch parapet wall. So even you have to be at quite a distance off to be able to get the right angle to see the rooftop terrace. All 3 units have the rear porches as well as the rear entry garages. And then the next page does show a little bit better view of how the rooftop terraces are kind of cut into the roof. And I think they hide nicely. And it did not affect the overall use of those rooftop terraces. And then I just gave you one more page just in a line detail, so you could see it's a little bit easier to see the brick detail work and the detail on the cornice, on the front porches, and from this view. So that gives you a little bit better idea of the amount of detail that's going into the project. So any questions that I could answer?
Any questions from the board?
I just want to make a comment. I love the use of outdoor living spaces on these more, because, and I can imagine myself, at least for the building that we're approving, sitting on the second story of the front, listening to Milton's Cuisine, the music coming off there, or going to the back of my house and listening to music coming off of the amphitheater. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what a lot of our townhouses miss here, is a use of outdoor living space. And you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah, we have 5 outdoor living spaces.
And I think that's really something to say, because that's what we want here. We want activity, right? We want people to be out, sitting on their porch, enjoying music and engaging with people. So I think that's a great design.
Thank you.
I appreciate all of the detail from when you presented the last time to this time.
Yeah.
So.
Well, the very first time we brought it in, we were just trying to get started, and they spent like 3 days on it. And I apologize, and I won't come back again, not fully prepared. But again, I love the idea of collaborative work, and it's what makes cities great. And there are other cities that we work in who are obstructive, and when they're obstructive, it produces bad results rather than working together to produce great results. And I think this is a great example of a project that's improved because of feedback. And we're certainly very invested in crabapple and in the success here, and I'm very interested in it being beautiful. This is not our only project. As you're aware, we've got the next project down, which is significantly more investment for us than this one, which, by the way, we'll have the first 3 units back for you next month. So I'll be ready with those. But I do appreciate that there are people who care, and there's a staff that cares, and we're working together. And it really does produce a better result.
So we're kind of having a testimonial here, but I do have to ring in. I appreciate all your changes. Bob and I, after that first session, had an hour meeting. I was really unhappy and vocal with a lot of things and worried about protecting our adjacent neighbors. And you moving the terraces around back has really pleased the neighbors across the street because he's looking at your buildings.
Yeah.
And so it's a beautiful building. And I'm very appreciative of the work Bob and you did together to get the things that I, as one member, just didn't want to have. And the neighbors are real happy. And you still got everything you needed. So thank you so much for your extra efforts over the last couple of months.
Yeah,
Bob, thank you for your extra effort.
Yeah, thank you.
Really looks like a great project. Now, I like all the changes you did. It is going to be a nice piece of work.
Thank you.
Let me see. Are there any comments from the community on this project? Any additional comments from board or staff? I think we're good. It looks really great. Thanks,
Perfect.
Rob. I
Thank you very much.
Appreciate all your work.
We need a motion.
Yeah, I need somebody to make a motion.
I move that the final review of Burnham Townhomes Phase 3 be approved.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is Crabapple Market Green Amphitheater.
Just state your name and address for the record.
I've got a PDF.
Yes. That would be- Yeah? Yeah.
Good evening, Board. Charles O'Brien with Piper O'Brien, her architects. I'm representing Orkin and Associates on this project. The project before you will give the ability to have a performance venue permanently installed on the green that's immediately behind you in location. The addition of that green will continue to activate the heart of Crabapple, and at times will transition the green from a passive-only park to an active destination. We reviewed several site configurations for this project, as well as several stage designs, and we ended up with this one being the best. We have the stage itself oriented and on an axis here with the corner of the park, if you see my cursor. So it's presenting itself right to the intersection, and it also uses the City Hall as a backdrop from behind it. So, yep, it would just be right there. We want to the next page here. The stage itself is designed to have a canopy covering over top of the performers from not only from a shade perspective, but also from a inclement weather, pop-up thunderstorm or whatnot. And then the two volumes on the sides would provide some space off stage, as it were, just to be somewhere that's not on stage or off stage. It's somewhere for the performers to be. The stage itself is elevated 2 feet off of the grade of the green. This would be more from the side facing Heritage Walk. This would be the view really from the windows right behind you. So we have 5 piers that have that are rod hanging the canopy over top of the stage. And then here's a view of the stage in more of an inactive mode where the doors are closed. This would be more of a passive park condition where the park's still open for everybody all the time. The next view is with the doors in a closed and locked position to provide some security, really just to keep people out of there so they can also maintain some equipment in that facility without having to move it each time. From a site plan perspective, we're planning on ringing the entire green with bushes to help with audience control so that we would have some strategic locations for the audience to come and go through those openings in the bushes. So the 25-foot wide openings on 2 sides and then 12-foot wide section on the other side. We also have some sidewalks from access point of view to the back of the stage. That would be where the performers would come and go. And maybe some equipment could be loaded in through those doors on the sides. Here's a little floor plan of what that stage could look like with the west wing and the east wing. And you also see the way those doors are pocketing themselves onto the sides, left and right. So when it's in an active mode, those doors kind of slide themselves open and are fairly hidden from view. Here's an elevation of the front of with the doors in the open position and the doors in the closed position.
In a vacuum, I love this design. I'm wondering in the context of all those architectural styles that we've been considering, is this cable and steel tube column really compatible? And that's a subjective thing. And it's an architectural question. That doesn't strike me as fits in the flavor of the architectural styles within this form-based code. But
Well, I just want to tell the board that staff has not had a chance to review this. They put it on the agenda for final review, but we haven't had a chance to really have any dialogue back and forth. So I had a million questions too. So normally it's like reviewed by staff before, but in this case, this particular building has not.
I'd say it looks pretty bulky for the area that it is. Is there any, as far as the design goes, did you mean to close out? When I think of an amphitheater, I think of you can see it kind of from all angles coming in. It seems pretty closed off with the band kind of being kind of tucked back in, or whoever's kind of performing. Is there any reason for that at that location?
There's a concern about sound and being able to control that sound and really focus it out towards the green, so it's not just emanating everywhere in this area. So it was
kind of away from the residences.
Intentional.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. I sort of agree on the cable look. I mean, it's heavy. I'm looking back here. That's going to be 20 feet. How tall is that? Are those cables? They're probably 25 feet tall.
Yes, I believe so. That's about right. Sorry.
I thought of it. And I think it's better than just, the canvas top of a couple of posts that you see in a lot of amphitheater places. I think it's a heck of a lot better than that. It just seems bulky, but
Well, there's some equipment that they want to store in here permanently or relatively permanently, so they don't have to continuously move it in and out. So having it that open, the initial design actually was a very
Yeah, I think
open
it was.
and very light look like what you're describing, and I agree, that would be the ideal. It's just from a functional standpoint, and what they want to be able to use it for in terms of storing some equipment long-term, it needed to have some more enclosure to it.
I think I would agree with what everybody said.
Yeah, I would too.
Architecturally, especially across from City Hall, which is very Milton, I would ask to propose, I would make a motion to table, postpone, defer, Bob will coach me on the right word, defer 7C for a month and let the city's architect work with you some. I don't love the cables either, and the height, everything that my other board members here have said, I agree on. And I'd just like for you to work on this a month and come back and see us. It's great. Love the amphitheater. Want to hurry up and build it. It's going to be fun, but I'd just make that motion on item 7C to defer for 1 month.
Second.
And then if you like, you can have discussion.
Yeah, I just want to make some more comments.
After
Yeah,
a motion
go.
and a second, then you can have internal discussion.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Should I make comments now, or do we need to?
Yes, comments.
Okay, great. All right. I would just, it looks to me, I don't know how often this is going to be used. Hopefully it's going to be used a lot. It looks like it's just going to be a storage building in the middle of the green. That's what it looks like. Okay. And if that's what your intent is, to store some things there, I mean, that's what it's going to look like. It's not going to look like an open amphitheater where people can say, ooh, I can perform there. That's not what it looks like to me. But, and then also lighting. Do you have any plans for lighting around that, or is it not?
Not as part of this design, no.
Okay.
And that was going to be my question. Was the intent to use it more during the day and not at night, or kind of both?
Certainly the option for both, but I think mostly in the evening.
I would think there'd need to be some lighting on that. Some sort of lighting somewhere, whether it's, along the outer side or, yeah.
I think
It's flanked by City Hall and the original buildings, and it's very different from either one of those. And I'm one that likes to see gentle transition. Even though that may not be form-based code, we got a green that's beautiful, and we're looking at two distinct buildings here. So I'd like to see you work to get that. Maybe I'm wanting to see more fire station and police station look, that work that came to us a couple of months ago.
Okay.
That would really make me happy to see that direction.
Okay.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Even looking at the buildings in the back, maybe pulling out, some of these side buildings, they've got a lighter color, maybe pulling that into this might be more consistent with the overall design. That's what I was thinking, which is kind of along the lines of your comment. Any other comments? Any comments from the community? Oh. So there is a motion on the floor. If there's no comments, let's take a vote.
Did we get a second?
We had a
We
second.
did have a second, yes. So
Just discussion, and now you can.
for a deferral, all in favor of the deferral?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so.
It'll be a 30-day deferral till next month.
That's right.
And then I can work with you.
Yes.
And then another 50.
Okay, our next item, 7D, Crab Apple Market Outdoor Canopy, final review.
Just State your name and address again, please.
That's Charles O'Brien, Piper O'Brien, her architects, 3000 Royal Boulevard South, Alpharetta. The image in front of you is the same from the package that you have in front of you. This is to add a trellis over top of the existing roof patio that's already there on Building E. That's on the top floor of, you see Laurel and May down at the bottom here. It's just to give you a location. This has nothing to do with Laurel and May. The tenant would be adjacent here. They want to use this as a roof patio, and they need to have a little bit of covering to make it more palatable out there in the sunlight. So we've got several views here. It's really just a sun structure. It's not providing any sort of rain protection.
So after a while ago, I'd have to tell you, it looks great. And I hate being in the sun. When I was 30, I loved the sun. But now I can't be in the sun.
That's right.
So what a great way to improve it. And it's so good looking, you can't even tell it wasn't there originally.
That's right.
So I think it's great.
Yeah, it looks really nice. Yeah, it's a really nice look.
I'd make a motion to approve it, item 7D as submitted.
Is there a second?
Just any public comment. Craig?
Yeah, let me, is there any comments from the public? Any other questions from the board? All right, so, so there's a second for the motion. All in favor of approval?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, our last final review is Aldi LDP 12990 Highway 9.
State your name.
Good evening, Robert Oakes. I'm the real estate director for Aldi, 1597 Dry Pond Road, Jefferson, Georgia. Aldi is proposing a expansion to his existing building located at 12990 Highway 9. It's approximately a 2,000 square foot expansion on the north end of the building, approximately 17 feet beyond the end of the current structure. I'd be happy to answer any questions the board have.
Curious, what's the reason for the expansion?
To provide more sales floor space for us to accommodate our increased product line.
Okay, so it's just it's not no new service or product. It's just to make more room.
More room, more items that we're selling now as part of our business.
Okay.
Bob, have you got any input on this? Have you reviewed this?
I have, and I'm working with them currently on the architecture. So this particular building falls into what we call the non-conforming property because it was built prior to the code. Mm-hmm. So the placement and whatnot it wouldn't meet current standards, but it's existing and stays there. They're putting in addition. The code does allow minor modifications to a non-conforming building. So they're adding this addition, and then I've met with the applicant and told them that the exterior, even though they're just adding this side, it's changing the building substantially architecturally. So we're looking and studying at the entire facade, including the back portion of the facade, to see what that looks like. And the applicant's willing to Miltonize this building and kind of bring it up to standards and get it. It's not, the placement will never change, but the facade. So I think next month when we get there, if you're ready for next month, we'd be able to show you how the architecture is going to just transform this whole building.
Okay.
But the site plan, we work with it. It's, he wanted the addition on the side, modify the parking layout, and there's still one out parcel, just so the board knows. There's still an out parcel in the front that's open, and we've had a lot of interest in it, but nobody's actually come in with anything that is viable there. But there is another potential buildable lot in front of Aldi's. And then there's sort of this little bypass road. It's really a bypass road. It is there. It backs up to some residential, and that's why the back of the building is, we're looking at kind of updating the back a little bit so it doesn't look like the back anymore, like a solid brick wall. We're going to try to put some fenestration in there, even if they're fake windows we spoke about, putting some more details, architectural, so the elevation starts to look like it could be a front. It kind of gives it a nicer upkeep. And then the character, we're breaking away from the traditional Aldi look and trying to get the character to be more in line with what's in that shopping center, which are more awnings and details that from the other buildings that we've done there. The board has already seen like the dental office, the other medical office, and the fast food Del Taco.
Yeah.
So we're trying to get it all up into that level of standard. And the applicant's been good. He's been willing to upgrade that look on the facade. So we wanted to bring this in so that they could start to get their LDP work going. And then next month we'll look at the architecture.
Okay.
And so from a site planning and horizontal LDP, you're good with what they're doing?
I am. Yeah, there's a substantial amount of work that went into this, going back and forth with the applicant to make sure that he meets all the criteria as far as, drainage and parking and meeting all the requirements that we had to do, and that the circulation on the site works, and then shifting sort of the entrance of the building from where it is over to this new addition. So that they were still trying to maintain a small tower there. That's their look.
Yes.
They would like to maintain that tower. They've expressed interest in the tower. So we're trying to keep the tower and modify all the architecture around that. But the entrance would be now on the corner.
Okay. Yeah, that is kind of the Aldi brand.
Yeah, it's kind of nice because it's really visible from three sides. You got the front, the side, and then the rear, and there is a great amount of visibility from the communities that surround it. So I think looking at that will enhance it.
Any other questions for the applicant from the board?
I'll make a motion to approve the final review for the land disturbance Aldi LDP.
Let me make sure there's any comments from the public on this project. No. Okay, we're good. All right, so you already made the motion. Is there a second? Okay, all in favor?
All right.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Easiest spot, huh?
We don't have a time, we can, if he's happy with it.
But I need to get together with you soon.
It doesn't, if the bodies don't slow downhill, then they're gonna have a bigger problem than we have.
Is there any new business?
No, there's not.
Any old business from anyone on the board or staff? Then we are adjourned. Thank you.